The movie begins with a mysterious man entering a sauna carrying a large bag. He places it inside a locker and leaves without drawing attention to himself. Later that night, Jung-man, an employee at the sauna, opens the locker and discovers that the bag is filled with cash. Shocked by the huge amount of money, he secretly hides it in the sauna's storage room. Jungman is a hardworking family man struggling to make ends meet. He has an elderly mother who is seriously ill and a daughter preparing for college. The financial pressure puts a strain on the family, and his wife often argues with his mother. To help support the household, his wife works as a cleaner at a port terminal. At the same port, a man named Tay works as an immigration officer. He is drowning in debt and desperately trying to pay it off. One night, he receives a call from a ruthless gangster known as Boss, who also happens to be his loan shark. Boss is infamous for dealing harshly with people who fail to repay their debts. He has no problem using violence or even murder to make an example of them. Unfortunately for Tay, the deadline for repayment has arrived. Tay explains that he was tricked by his ex-girlfriend, Yon, who used him as a co-signer for a loan before disappearing with all the money. Desperate, he begs Boss for one more week to come up with the cash. Boss reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Miran works as a hostess at a karaoke bar. She is also buried in debt after being scammed by someone she trusted. One evening, she spends time with a Chinese immigrant customer who unexpectedly develops feelings for her. When Miran returns home, she is met by her abusive husband, who regularly beats her because of their financial troubles. After learning about her situation, the Chinese man encourages her to leave her husband. He tells her that abusive men rarely change, speaking from his own experience growing up with an abusive father. His words stay in Miran's mind. Eventually, she begins considering a dangerous plan, killing her husband and collecting the money from his life insurance policy. At the same time, Tay is desperately searching for a way to repay his debt. He comes up with a plan to help a wanted scammer escape the country in exchange for a share of the stolen money. He asks his friend Karp to help. At first, Karp refuses, but he changes his mind when he learns how much money they could make. After all, he also owes money to the same dangerous gangster. On the night of the operation, Tay waits at the terminal for the fugitive to arrive, but the man never shows up. Frustrated by the delay, Karp gives up and leaves. Things get even worse when a detective suddenly approaches Tay and starts asking questions about the missing scammer. Tay pretends not to know anything, but the detective has already investigated his background and becomes suspicious. Later, during dinner, the detective continues trying to get information out of Tay. Fortunately for Tay, the conversation is interrupted when the detective receives another assignment and has to leave. For now, Tay avoids trouble, but it is clear that his problems are only beginning. Meanwhile, Jungman wakes up late in the middle of the night and realizes he's going to be late for work. He quickly calls his manager to explain the situation and asks for some understanding, but the manager refuses to listen and fires him on the spot. That rainy night, Jungman heads straight to the sauna to retrieve the bag full of cash he found earlier. At the same time, Miran meets with her new lover. The two have agreed on a plan to kill her abusive husband and escape with the money from his life insurance policy. Nervously waiting at a bar, her lover watches for the husband to appear. As soon as he sees him, he floors the accelerator and crashes his car into the man. Believing the plan was a success, he excitedly calls Miran and proudly tells her what happened. But instead of celebrating, Miran becomes furious. In an attempt to cover up the crime, he buried the body. By doing that, he made it impossible to claim the insurance money. To make matters even worse, Miran's husband suddenly returns home alive. The lover realizes he killed the wrong person. Meanwhile, Boss contacts Tay and questions him about his involvement in helping his fugitive friend escape the country. Tay keeps denying everything, putting his friend Karp in danger. When Boss's men prepare to cut off Karp's wrist as punishment, Tay finally breaks down and admits the truth. Afterward, Tay asks Karp to keep an eye on the detective investigating the case and report any new information. Karp refuses at first because he wants nothing to do with the police, but with Boss threatening them both, he reluctantly agrees. Elsewhere, Miran's lover visits her apartment later that night, hoping to celebrate. Instead, she tells him that he killed the wrong man. Overwhelmed with guilt, he can barely handle what he's done. Miran advises him to get rid of the car and flee to China. She promises that once things calm down, she'll join him there. However, deep down, Miran is furious at him for ruining their plan. Back at the sauna, Jungman finally arrives to collect the money. He asks a new employee for the key to the storage room and quickly grabs the bag. Just as he's leaving, his former manager shows up and notices the suspicious bag. The manager demands to see what's inside, but Jung-man refuses. Since he no longer works there, he doesn't feel obligated to obey him anymore. After a heated argument, Jung-man manages to walk away with the money. Once he gets home, he carefully counts the cash and hides it in his room. Meanwhile, at the karaoke bar, Yeon, the manager and Tae's ex-girlfriend, suddenly appears and steps in to protect Miran from an aggressive customer. Feeling sorry for Miran's situation, she offers to help deal with her abusive husband. Later, Miran visits her lover, who is now completely consumed by guilt. He has become so disturbed that he starts imagining the voice of the man he accidentally killed. Unable to live with the burden, he decides he wants to turn himself into the police. Wanting to stop him, Miran comes up with another idea. She suggests holding a memorial service for the victim that night, hoping it will ease his guilt and keep him from confessing. Lover is overwhelmed with guilt after accidentally killing an innocent man. The guilt becomes so unbearable that he decides to turn himself into the police. Afraid that everything will fall apart, Miran takes a desperate step and runs him over with her car, killing him. Panicked and unsure what to do next, Miran calls Yon for help. Together, they dispose of the body and take the car to a scrapyard to destroy any evidence. Later, Yon invites Miran to a bathhouse. During their conversation, Yon subtly suggests a way for Miran to get rid of her abusive husband and asks about his life insurance payout. Impressed by Yon's confidence and intelligence, Miran begins to admire her and even wants the same tattoo that Yon has. With Yon's guidance, Miran successfully kills her husband and stages his death as a suicide caused by depression. Yon carefully coaches her through the police investigation, and eventually Miran is cleared of any suspicion. Sometime later, Miran visits Yon to thank her for all the help. To celebrate, they share a few drinks. However, Miran has no idea that Yon has secretly drugged her drink. When she wakes up, she finds herself tied to a table. Yon finally reveals her true intentions. She wants all of the insurance money for herself. To carry out her plan, she gives Miran the same tattoo she has so that authorities will mistake Miran's body for Yon's. Yon then brutally murders her and disposes of the remains to cover her tracks. With Miran gone, Yon plans to take over her identity and keep the money. Sometime later, Yon returns to Tae. She prepares a meal and tries to win him back, but Tae is still furious over how she ruined his life by running away with his money. He demands answers, but Yon avoids the truth and threatens to leave again. Eventually, Tae gives in and accepts her back. Yon keeps Miran's insurance money a secret. Instead, she tells Tae that she wants to go to Japan and asks for his help. She even prepares a fake passport using Miran's identity. Tae finds the story suspicious and struggles to trust her. Things become even more complicated when a detective visits Tae's home. Despite Tae's attempts to keep him out, the detective meets Yon and joins them for dinner. During the conversation, he reveals that police recently discovered the body parts of a woman with a shark tattoo. Since Yon has the same tattoo, Tae immediately becomes suspicious and questions her, but she denies everything. Later, the detective informs Tae that the fugitive friend they had been searching for has finally been caught. After he leaves, Tae contacts Karp. Convinced that Yon is hiding a large amount of money, Tae suggests framing her and splitting the profits. Unbeknownst to them, one of Boss's henchmen overhears the entire conversation. When Tae returns home, he makes a shocking discovery. Yon has murdered the detective. She claims she panicked because the investigation was getting too close and she feared being exposed. At that point, Tae has had enough. He catches Yon off guard and knocks her unconscious. While searching her car, he discovers a huge stash of cash, the insurance money that belonged to Miran. Without hesitation, Tae takes the money and runs. He has no intention of paying off Yon's debts or helping her. Laughing to himself, he drives away with the fortune, betraying her just as she had betrayed everyone else. Meanwhile, Yon wakes up to find herself surrounded by Boss and Karp. She promises to repay her debt, but quickly realizes that Tae has stolen all of her money. When she calls him, Tae simply laughs at her situation and hangs up. Furious, Yon joins forces with Boss to track Tae down and recover the money. Meanwhile, Tae arrives at a hotel near the port. He takes the cash to a nearby sauna and hides it inside a locker. It turns out that he is the mysterious man seen at the beginning of the movie, carrying a large bag into the sauna. Before settling in, Tae asks Jung-man, who works at the sauna, to buy him some cigarettes. Since Jung-man cannot leave his job, Tae decides to go out himself. Unfortunately, Boss and his men are already waiting for him outside. Tae tries to escape, but while running away, he is struck by a dump truck and killed instantly. With Tae dead, nobody knows where the money is hidden. The only person who has seen the bag is Jung-man. Back in the present timeline, Jung-man has already found the money and hidden it in his room. One day, his former manager calls him, claiming he still has unpaid wages to collect. When Jung-man arrives, he is shocked to find Boss and Yeon waiting for him. They immediately question him about Tai and the missing money, but Jung-man denies knowing anything. However, his former manager reveals that he saw Jung-man leaving the sauna with the bag. Realizing he has been exposed, Jung-man struggles to respond. Boss and Yeon let him go, but secretly follow him home. At the house, they catch Jung-man trying to hide the money. After confirming the amount inside the bag, Yeon becomes obsessed with getting it all for herself. Suddenly, Jung-man's elderly mother walks in and starts yelling at the intruders for breaking into their home. Boss responds by knocking both her and Jung-man unconscious. At that moment, Yeon betrays Boss. She grabs a set of kitchen knives and stabs him from behind, killing him. She then sets the house on fire and escapes with the money, planning to flee the country through the port. When Boss's henchman discovers the burning house and finds his boss dead inside, he vows to take revenge on Yeon. Fortunately, the smoke wakes Jung-man and his mother before it's too late. They manage to escape the fire alive, but Jung-man is devastated. After everything he has gone through, he has lost the money and is left with nothing. At the port, Yeon buys a ticket and hides the money in a locker while waiting for her departure. Believing she has finally won, she heads to the restroom. However, Boss's henchman has followed her there. Despite her attempts to fight back, he overpowers her and kills her in revenge for Boss's death. Several days later, Jungman's wife is working as a cleaner in the same restroom where Yeon was murdered. While cleaning, she accidentally finds a locker key that Yeon had dropped. Curious, she checks the locker and discovers the bag filled with cash. In the end, the money ends up in the hands of yet another person. The cycle of greed, debt, betrayal, and violence begins all over again, proving that the money brings nothing but trouble to whoever possesses it. And this is how the story concludes. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching.